you still all happy today?
Yes, sir.
Well, on this subject, spirituality, there's one thing I think that every one of us has in common. Baha'u'llah says some very interesting words quoted in the Dawnbreakers. And he says, and I think it's common to all of us, be thankful to God for having enabled you to recognize his cause. Whoever has received this blessing must, prior to his acceptance, have performed some deed which, though he himself was unaware of its character, was ordained by God as a means whereby he has been guided to find and embrace the truth. As to those who have remained deprived of such a blessing, their acts alone have hindered them from recognizing the truth of this revelation. We cherish the hope that you, who have attained this light, will exert your utmost to banish the darkness of superstition and unbelief from the midst of the people. That's a wish of Baha'u'llah. May your deeds proclaim your faith, enable you to lead the erring into the paths of eternal salvation. I guess every one of us are fully aware who Baha'u'llah is. But do you know Baha'u'llah's own description of himself? And this is whom we are serving and whom we are working for in this world. We have the bounty. You realize that the Bahá'ís are the only people in this world that know how the kingdom of God on earth will be established. And indeed, we're the ones that have been blessed to be able to participate in it and help build its God-given institutions. People outside don't know, and it's up to us to share that faith, share the temple of God. And in my beauty but his beauty, and in my being but his being, and in myself but his self, and in my movement but his movement, and in my acquiescence but his acquiescence, and in my pen but his pen, the mighty, the all-praised. There hath not been in my soul but the truth, and in myself naught could be seen but God. So we truly have the manifestation of God. Baha'u'llah clearly says it here. There hath not been in my soul but the truth, and in myself naught could be seen but God. And we have his vast teachings to which we turn, and for that is the source of our spirituality in this great day and age. And we're working under the God-given institutions that Baha'u'llah has left us for the first time in the world's history. The significance of a world faith. We are blessed to have the knowledge of the first revelation in the world that has been revealed by the pen of the manifestation. So there is no ifs, buts, doubts. We're absolute certain of our revelation and its writings. because we have it from the pen of Baha'u'llah, from the pen of the Bab, from the pen of Abdul Baha, and from the pen of Shoghi Effendi. We're divinely guided by those great pens, the supreme manifestation. And we're blessed to have the universal house of justice to constantly guide us in the affairs of this great cause now sweeping simultaneously throughout the whole earth. And of that universal house of justice, Baha'u'llah tells us, "Praise be unto God who hath made the most great infallibility, the shield for the temple of his cause in the realm of creation, and hath assigned unto no one a share of this lofty and sublime station, a station which is a vesture," like a clothing, a vesture, "which the fingers of transcendent power have woven for his august self." That universal house of justice belongs exclusively to God, and no one has a share in that infallibility. He makes that clear. And indeed, Abdul Baha was asked about that and explained that. And you can read it in some answered questions, page 199. That house of justice will be under the protection and the guardianship of God. If that house of justice shall decide unanimously or by a majority upon any question not mentioned in the book. What's the book? The book of Revelation, Baha'u'llah's Revelation. If that house of justice shall decide unanimously or by a majority upon any question not mentioned in the book, that decision and command will be guarded from mistake. Now the members of the house of justice have not individually essential sinlessness, but the body of the house of justice is under the protection of God. This is called conferred infallibility. When it comes to our own spirituality, from these mighty teachings we have a vast knowledge given to us, directions to guide us of what we should do. And this is a challenge. It becomes a challenge to every one of us to understand it. Baha'u'llah says the first duty prescribed by God for his servants is the recognition of him who is the dayspring of his revelation and the foundation of his laws, who representeth the Godhead in both the kingdom of his cause and in the world of creation. Whoso achieveth this duty hath attained unto all good, and whoso is deprived thereof hath gone astray, though he be the author of every righteous deed. It behoveth everyone who reacheth this sublime station, this summit of transcendent glory, to observe every ordinance of him who is the desire of the world. These twin duties are inseparable. The recognition of the manifestation and the observance of every ordinance of him who is the desire of the world. Neither is acceptable without the other. We can't accept the manifestation and then not obey his laws. We have to have both. We have this very clear. Thus it hath been decreed by him who is the source of divine inspiration. Then he also calls upon us the first and foremost deed prescribed unto men. Incidentally, he doesn't say women, he says men. Next to recognition of the eternal truth is the duty of steadfastness in his cause, obedience to his command. Like in the army, you obey, you're obedient. We belong to the mighty army of Baha'u'llah. I was interested in that when, in 1963, the House of Justice were meeting with all the hands of the cause and some of the councillors together. And they called all the National Spiritual Assembly members present at that election. They said, they are the generals. The generals, the National Assembly members are the generals of the army of Baha'u'llah. They direct the army in every country. They are giving the guidance and the directions to the army of Baha'u'llah in every country. And the generals are the responsible ones and are the National Spiritual Assembly members who give you the plans and the guidance and the constant inspiration for teaching your cause. We're reminded also by Baha'u'llah, in this case of gaining spirituality, that Baha'u'llah must have a fantastic computer. Really he must. Because he tells us he has the perfect recording system. And he tells us, for instance, you can read one you're probably familiar with in the hidden words, by my beauty, all your doings hath my pen graven with open characters upon tablets of chrysolite. Does that make you nervous? Everything you do? Eh? Your knees start playing Home Sweet Home when you learn all these things Baha'u'llah tells us. He well knows the actions of men. He who is the eternal truth knoweth well what the breasts of men conceal. Again he says men, not women, you see. Nothing whatsoever escapeth him. He knoweth the secrets both of the heavens and the earth. His knowledge embraceth all things. Now I won't read you all of these. I don't want to disturb your sleep tonight. But I will read you the one special one here. Thou shalt after thy departure discover what we have revealed unto thee. And that means revealed unto us through Baha'u'llah's writings and through his institution, the Universal House of Justice. Thou shalt after thy departure discover what we have revealed unto thee, and shalt find all thy doings recorded in the book, wherein the works of all them that dwell on earth, be they greater or less than the weight of an atom, are noted down. Even to the small deeds, Baha'u'llah tells us, they're all noted down. That's why I said Baha'u'llah must have a mighty computer recording the deeds and doings of all mankind. It is clear and evident that all men shall, after their physical death, estimate the worth of their deeds and realize all that their hands have wrought. But then he gives his blessings when he tells us, the pen of the Most High hath at all times and under all conditions remembered with joy and tenderness his loved ones, and counseled them to follow in his way. With joy and tenderness, he remembers all the loved ones. Are you the loved ones? Yes, for sure. Well is it with him whom the changes and chances of this world have failed to deter from recognizing the dayspring of the unity of God, who hath watched with unswerving resolve, and in the name of the self-subsisting, the sealed wine of his revelation. Such a man, again he says man, shall be numbered with the inmates of paradise in the book of God, the Lord of all worlds. I'm sure that includes the ladies as well. Such a man shall be numbered with the inmates of paradise. You know, in 1983, when I was in Haifa, they told us about that paradise, the mighty mansion that is there. And you know, Baha'u'llah has said that his revelation is for all the worlds of God. And the story went that one Baha'i went up to heaven, and when he got there, yes, he was given a welcome at the golden gates. And he was in, he said, I'll show you all around. He says, in this place there are many mansions. All these are all Hindus this side, and all Buddhists up this side. This little group over here are Jews. This group over here are Parsis. He said, a bit further down there's the Muslims over there, and these are Christians. And then down the end he saw this mighty pavilion of paradise. So he raced down to the pavilion. When he got there wasn't a soul inside. Not a person. Had the greatest name up there. And he says, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. There's not a Baha'i in heaven. I can't believe it. Oh, he got himself really all in the stew. And by this time the guy walked up and he says, now cool off. Just slow down. He said, just slow down. He says, the Baha'is are the best people in heaven. They mix with everybody. He says, just the fact that there's no one here, he said. Well, he said, they've all gone to teaching in heaven. Gone teaching in hell. Sorry. So we're challenged when Baha'u'llah tells us, you know, his revelation in his all the worlds of God. You know all the experience you're having now in the 6-year plan. All that experience could be very valuable, because when you arrive in the next world, they might just be starting another 6-year plan. Then and spiritually we're blessed to know and have the knowledge, of this great revelation, and to have the knowledge that a true believer, only we ourselves can assess ourselves. Who can assess that another person is a true believer or not? This is the challenge. We have to assess ourselves. They that are the followers of the one true God shall, the moment they depart out of this life, experience such joy and gladness as would be impossible to describe. So there's no fear of the next world. There's no fear of moving from this world to the next. They shall experience such joy and gladness as would be impossible to describe. Baha'u'llah can't describe such joy and happiness of a true believer. Then he tells us the true believer, his spirit will everlastingly circle round the will of God. He will last as long as God himself will last. So if you're a true believer, you've got a long period of service in this world and in the next. You remember Baha'u'llah said his dispensation was for at least not less than 1,000 years. And Guardian made it very clear that Baha'u'llah's cycle was 500,000 years, of which the prophets of God in the future will come under the shadow of Baha'u'llah. And these are the things that you're promised. You'll live as long as God himself will last. As I said one day, I said, by golly, you'll all have long beards by that time. 500,000 years. It was the Guardian that was asked about the problem of gaining spirituality. And I'd like to read you his reply to this question. The problem with which you are faced is one of the concerns and seriously puzzles many of our present-day youth. How to attain spirituality is indeed a question to which every young man and woman must sooner or later try to find a satisfactory answer. It is precisely because no such satisfactory answer has been given or found that the modern youth finds itself bewildered and is being consequently carried away by the materialistic forces that are so powerfully undermining the foundation of man's moral and spiritual life. Indeed, the chief reason for the evils now rampant in society is the lack of spirituality. A very clear-cut statement from the Guardian. The chief reason for the evils now rampant in society is the lack of spirituality. The materialistic civilization of our age has so much absorbed the energy and interest of mankind that people in general do no longer feel the necessity of raising themselves above the forces and conditions of their daily material existence. There is not sufficient demand for things that we should call spiritual to differentiate them from the needs and requirements of our physical existence. The universal crisis affecting mankind is therefore essentially spiritual in its causes. The spirit of the age, taken on a whole, is irreligious. Man's outlook on life is too crude and materialistic to enable him to elevate himself into the higher realms of the spirit. So we mustn't get attached too much to materialism. It is this condition so sadly morbid into which the society has fallen that religion seeks to improve and transform. For the core of religious faith is that mystic feeling. This is that sense of spirituality. This state of spiritual communion can be brought about and maintained by means of meditation and prayer. Guardian makes it clear here. Meditation. The Baha'i faith, like all other divine religions, is thus fundamentally mystic in character. Its chief goal is through the acquisition of spiritual virtues and powers. It is the soul of man which has first to be fed. We must physically eat, but the number one is to feed the soul. And this spiritual nourishment prayer can best provide. laws and institution things. And we know that the Baha'i faith is very much a living organization, very much alive. Oh, there was another piece I was just going to remind you here of what we're moving toward and what's happening. Abdu'l-Baha once gave a talk on the difference between the material civilization and a divine civilization, which of course is sustained by the spirit that animates this great revelation. Abdu'l-Baha says, and I like to repeat here the exact words. You'll notice today in talking I'm giving you the exact words that come from the writings itself. There's nothing else that to me is better. This is the challenging part that's given to all of us. Every one of us has our own destiny in our own hands, and we ourselves have to work our own passage to the next kingdom. Abdu'l-Baha says, as to the difference between the natural, that is the physical or material civilization, which is in the present day in force, and the divine civilization, which shall be the results of the house of justice. The material civilization prevents and safeguards people from committing evil deeds through the force of laws and retaliation and correction. Laws of retaliation and correction. Thus you see how prohibitory laws and rules of correction are constantly in circulation, and yet by no means any adequate law of retribution is to be found. And in all the cities of Europe and America, spacious prison buildings have been founded and established for correcting and punishing criminals. But the divine civilization shall so train mankind that no soul will commit crimes except in very rare or few individuals, which exception is of no importance whatsoever. Consequently, there is much difference between preventing people from evil actions and crimes through correction and retaliation, or through violent punishment, and so training them, enlightening them, spiritualizing them, that they will shun crimes and evil deeds without any fear, however, of punishment, prevention, or retaliation. Nay, they will consider crimes themselves as the greatest punishment and the mightiest retribution. They will be attracted to the virtues of the human world and devotedly spend their lives in that which is conducive to the enlightenment of mankind and to spreading qualities acceptable to the threshold of the Almighty. Qualities that are acceptable to the threshold of the Almighty. Consider, consequently, what a difference and distinction is there between the material civilization and the divine civilization, which the Baha'is are building. And you are the first fruits in this area, the workers establishing this divine civilization that will cover the earth. Guardian tells us in one of his writings, it is impossible for us to conceive and understand the future world of a world united and key to the manifestation of God. When we're all observing his obligatory prayers, his laws, and his teachings, and the whole world is in unity, with that understanding of one God, one faith, and we're one people. I mentioned to the Bahá'ís the other day in the fire, and together with that truth And that principle that we have is the abandonment of prejudice. These two go together. These two principles are linked together. To show the illustration of the oneness of mankind, I'll ask you a question. Who is there, before they were born, was asked, what race of people would you like to be? Huh?